We can also use the proportion method to solve the same problem. We have a child who weighs 22 kilograms, and the doctor orders Amycin 165 milligrams IV every 8 hours to be infused over 30 minutes. The recommended dosage for Amycin is 15 to 22.5 milligrams per kilogram per day in 3 divided doses. The supply is Amycin 100 milligrams per 2 mLs. Is the ordered dosage safe? And if it's safe, how many milliliters do you give per dose? And the first thing we need to do here is figure out if what the doctor ordered, the 165 milligrams, is safe. In order to do this, we're going to have to compare it to our safe dosage range. We're going to need a minimum and a maximum. If we look at the recommended dosage, it tells us that we're allowed to give 15 to 22.5 milligrams per kilogram per day in 3 divided doses. First, let's look at the minimum amount we're allowed to give. 15 milligrams per kilogram per day in 3 divided doses. We can set up a relationship between the milligrams and the kilogram for this minimum amount of medication. We have 15 milligrams for every 1 kilogram. If we look back at the problem, we can see our child weighs 22 kilograms. We need to find out what the minimum amount of milligrams we're allowed to give on a daily basis. We can do this by cross-multiplying. 15 milligrams times 22 kilograms equals 1 kilogram times X milligrams. We then would divide both sides by 1 kilogram, and we will discover that we're allowed to give 330 milligrams per day. Now, if we look back at what the doctor ordered, they ordered 165 milligrams every 8 hours. That means if we want to give this every 8 hours, we'll be giving it in 3 doses throughout the whole day. If you look at the recommended dosage, it tells us that this amount, 15 to 22.5 milligrams per day, is given in 3 divided doses. We just figured the minimum amount of medication we can give per day. However, we're going to have to divide this into 3 doses in order to compare it to what the doctor ordered. If we divide 330 milligrams into 3 doses, we will be seeing that we are allowed to give a minimum of 110 milligrams each dose. We will then have to do the exact same process to find the maximum amount of medication we're allowed to give. As we can see from the problem, it states we are allotted to give a maximum of 22.5 milligrams per kilogram per day in 3 divided doses. Therefore, to find the maximum dose for our patient, we're going to have to write the relationship between milligrams and kilograms. We can see the maximum amount we're allowed to give is our 22.5 milligrams per 1 kilogram. We need to find out the maximum amount of milligrams we're allowed to give to our 22 kilogram patient. We can do this by cross-multiplying. 22.5 milligrams times 22 kilograms equals 1 kilogram times X milligrams. We then will divide both sides of the equation by 1 kilogram in order to get X by itself. Once we perform this calculation, we discover that we're allowed to give a maximum of 495 milligrams per day. But again, this is a daily dosage and we want it per each individual dose throughout the day. Therefore, we need to divide it into 3 doses. And when we do so, we discover we're allowed to give a maximum of 165 milligrams per dose. We now should be able to compare the doctor's order to this safe dosage. And if we look, the doctor ordered 165 milligrams. Our safe range is 110 to 165 milligrams. Because the 165 milligrams ordered matches the maximum, it doesn't go over the recommended dosage, we know that this dosage is safe to give. Now that we know it's safe, we needed to find out how many milliliters we're going to give to our patient. If we could look at the supply, it tells us there's 100 milligrams in every 2 milliliters. We know the doctor wants us to give 165 milligrams. We just need to know how many milliliters that will be. We can cross-multiply to find this out. 100 milligrams times X mLs equals 2 mLs times 165 milligrams. In order to get X by itself, we need to divide both sides by 100 milligrams. In doing so, we get X by itself, and we discover we can give 3.3 milliliters. The third way we can do this problem is using dimensional analysis. We have a child who weighs 22 kilograms. The doctor orders Amikin 165 milligrams IV every 8 hours to be infused over 30 minutes. The recommended dosage for Amikin is 15 to 22.5 milligrams per kilogram per day in 3 divided doses. The supply is 100 milligrams per 2 milliliters. Is the ordered dosage safe? And if it's safe, how many milliliters do we want to give for each dose? Well, as we can see, the doctor ordered 165 milligrams. In order to see if this is safe, we need to calculate the range for our specific patient. We're going to have a minimum and a maximum dosage for this patient. We have a child who weighs 22 kilograms. We can see from the recommended dosage that we're allotted to give 15 milligrams for each kilogram the patient weighs. We can do this calculation and we discover we're allowed to give 330 milligrams per 1 day. However, this is a daily recommended dosage, and as we can see from the problem, we need to divide this into 3 doses per day. Each day gets 3 doses. And if we take 330 milligrams and divide it by 3 doses, we'll discover we're allowed to give 110 milligrams per dose as our minimum safe dosage. We will then have to do the exact same process with our maximum dose. Our patient weighs 22 kilograms, and from the recommended dosage, we can see we're allotted to give a maximum of 22.5 milligrams per kilogram the patient weighs. If we work this out, we can see we need to give 495 milligrams, but again, this is per day. We don't want a daily doses though. We know that each day we have to divide this into 3 doses. And if we do this calculation of 495 milligrams divided into 3 doses, we discover we're allowed to give a maximum of 165 milligrams per dose. We then can compare our order to the safe range. The order is 165 milligrams, and the range is from 110 to 165. As we can see, the 165 matches the maximum amount but does not go over, so therefore we know that it's safe to give this medication to our patient. Now we go and look at the supply. We have a supply of 100 milligrams per 2 milliliters. So we need to take our 165 milligrams the doctor ordered, and we're going to multiply by the supply of 2 milliliters to 100 milligrams in order to find out how many milliliters we're going to give our patient. If we multiply 165 times 2 milliliters divided by 100, we discover we can give 3.3 milliliters. We can also use the formula method to solve this problem. We have a child who weighs 22 kilograms. The doctor orders Amican 165 milligrams IV every 8 hours to be infused over 30 minutes. The recommended dosage for Amican is 15 to 22.5 milligrams per kilogram per day in 3 divided doses. The supply is Amican 100 milligrams per 2 milliliters. Is the ordered dosage safe? And if it's safe, how many milliliters do we give per dose? Well, in order to discover if this order is safe, we're going to have to compare our order of 165 milligrams to the specific drug dosage range for our child. We'll have to find the minimum and the maximum dosage range for our patient. We have a child who weighs 22 kilograms. We can see that the minimum dosage is 15 milligrams per 1 kilogram. We can perform this calculation and we discover that we can give 330 milligrams per day. However, because this is given in 3 divided doses, we will have to divide 330 milligrams per day by the 3 doses. In doing so, we find that we have a minimum of 110 milligrams per dose. We then will do the same thing with our maximum dosage. Again, our patient weighs 22 kilograms, and the maximum dosage we can give per kilogram is 22.5 milligrams. We can work this out and we discover we're allowed to give a maximum of 495 milligrams per day. But again, this is a daily dosage, not the individual dose. So we're going to have to divide this into the 3 doses per day we want to give it in. When we do this, we discover we have a maximum dosage of 165 milligrams per dose. Now that we have our safe dosage range for our patient, we can compare our order to the range. Our order was for 165 milligrams. The range is for 110 to 165 milligrams. As we can see, our order matches the maximum dosage, but it doesn't go over. So therefore, this medication will be safe to give our patient. Now that we know that it's safe, we need to figure out how many milliliters we're going to give. So we're going to take the dosage ordered of 165 milligrams, divide it by the 100 milligrams on hand, and multiply it by the way we're delivering it, the 2 milliliters. Milligrams cancel, and if we work this out, 165 divided by 100 times 2, we discover we're going to give 3.3 milliliters.